Good to see familiar names and faces on the screen.
Yeah, lots of folks I haven't seen in a little while. Steve Wagstaff, Ashley Tabador, good to see your names. Dan Vermillion, hey, Ashley,
Hi.
how are things in Southern California?
Today has been cold, but otherwise pretty nice spring. I can't complain.
It's gone down to 65 degrees down there. Oh,
It's all relative.
it's all relative.
Yeah. We're like mid to upper 40s here today with some showers. So we're like full on winter here today.
Eskimo weather, I say.
Yeah. Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started. We have a great group joining us. So again, thank you so much for coming. My name is Eric Dumbleton. I'm the Chief Development Officer here at UC Law San Francisco. I've been here for about 8.5 years. And again, it's great to now be in the swing of our third annual Spring Week. So just a great week of events and engagement with our community. So again, thank you all for joining us. We started yesterday with a fireside chat with Chancellor and Dean David Faigman and the president of LIFT, alumna Kristen Zverchek from the class of 2007. So we're on our way. We've got our big event tomorrow evening at City Hall, and then the brunch on Saturday, and then capped off with our Giants, Padres, and Triples Alley. So hopefully we'll see some of you at some of those other events. So now, again, we're going to have about an hour here with our Chancellor and Dean, David Faigman. I'm going to give David a bit of a more formal introduction than I've done in the past. So I'll read from a card here that Chancellor and Dean David Faigman is the William B. Lockhart Professor of Law and the John F. DeGardy Distinguished Professor of Law at the University of California College of the Law, San Francisco, or UC Law SF. Or just UC Law. He holds an appointment as professor in the School of Medicine in the Department of Psychiatry at the University of California, San Francisco. I think that serves him well in his position as Chancellor and Dean. His MA also applicable in psychology, and his JD, both his MA in psychology and his JD from the University of Virginia in Charlottesville. Professor Faigman, clerk for the Honorable Thomas M. Reevely of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit. Couple personal things. Our fearless leader is a native of Yonkers, New York. David, I'd call him an all-star family man, husband, father, grandfather, and to me and to those with Italian in their bloods, most importantly, a gourmet chef. He's an avid Seinfeld fan, which he and I and others in the office will lean on almost on a daily basis, and also a big fan of the New York Mets. So without further ado, I'll hand it off to Chancellor and Dean David Faigman.
Thank you, Eric, for that gracious and detailed introduction. I think in the future I'll start writing introductions for you to work on. You didn't mention the Pulitzer or the Nobel, but that's fine. Those are, of course, are in the future, so looking forward to those. It's great to see you all. Welcome to Spring Week. First of all, I need to congratulate our development and advancement team, in particular Meredith Jaggard and the group that really has been focusing on this concept of Spring Week and all the great opportunities that it provides for us to get together. I will tell you, speaking of being a family man, that unfortunately I won't be here for the entire Spring Week. The family and I have had a long plan to go to Hawaii, and we're leaving Saturday. So I will be at City Hall tomorrow night. Very much looking forward to that. And then we have an early flight Saturday morning. Of course, I will be thinking about all of you as I drink Mai Tais and go down water slides in Honolulu. All is well at the school. Things are going extremely well. For those of you who have visited, you know that our buildings have really transformed what the campus is and what the experience on campus looks like. And if you have not yet come to campus, I highly recommend that you come visit. Uh, it will just blow your minds as to how beautiful the campus is and how wonderful the accommodations are there for our students. As you all will recall, we opened the Kachet Law Center at 333 Golden Gate Avenue in March, the first week of March 2020. It officially opened at 8 a.m. in the morning, and it officially closed at 5:30 p.m. The same day because of the pandemic. So it sat pretty much unused for almost a year, which itself, interestingly, just a little inside baseball, because we weren't using the building, we didn't know how the AV was going to be working, how the HVAC was going to be working when it was being stressed with people there. And then after we finally got into the building, there were all sorts of challenges figuring out, as you know, when you have a punch list and you're figuring out what's working, what's not working, you have to kind of go through it all. But anyway, the building now is just up and running incredibly smoothly, and the students just absolutely love it. We, of course, also renovated the 200 building, which is the Mary Kay Kane Hall. As you'll recall, we had the library at the upper 3 floors of the building. The top floor of the building is now dedicated to our centers. So the Center for Innovation, the UCSF, UC Law Consortium are up there, as well as Work Life Law, Center for Gender Refugee Studies, and others. Of course, we didn't need 3 floors of library any longer because nobody reads books. So we are down to 2 floors. But I think we'll keep the 2 floors of the library, at least for the time being, going into the future. And then, of course, we opened the brand new 198 McAllister. So the Snodgrass Hall that everybody knew and loved, with classrooms that I taught in for more than 30 years, classroom A, classroom B, D, E, F, G, and so forth. And I have very fond memories, especially of classroom A, which was a terrific classroom. I was never a big fan of classroom B because it was just too wide and it was impossible to control the 2 wings of the class. That is completely gone. We went down to the dirt and built a 14-story building there. It's 15 altogether. There's 1 lower level. It has 2 brand new courtrooms. It has the Shane Inspector courtroom, which is a trial courtroom, and it has the Marvin and Jane Baxter appellate courtroom. Again, they are absolutely stunning. I highly recommend, if you're on campus, to check out the courtrooms. It also has a 400-seat or able to seat 400 auditorium, which is also quite beautiful in the lower level. It replaces, of course, the old LBM that you may remember, the Louis B. Mayer auditorium. It also has a just beautiful, what we call the social commons up on the 7th floor that has a wraparound deck outside that looks out over the Asian Art Museum and City Hall. So 198 opened August 4th, 2023. Because we opened a little bit late for the semester, we didn't fully occupy it. It has 656 units of housing. It's a mixture of efficiency studios and some 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom apartments. And it's about 60% full, and we're looking forward to having full occupancy this coming year, the 2024-25 academic year. Of course, 656 units is a lot of units. 1/3 of those units will be occupied by UCSF learners. So that includes medical, dental, pharmacy, and nursing students, as well as master's and PhD students. We also have interns, residents, and other staff and faculty at UCSF that can live in that building. There are over 100 UCSF learners there now, and that'll go up to about 250 next year. We also are open to graduate students across the Bay Area. So it's open to University Pacific dental school students, San Francisco State, USF, Berkeley graduate, and any other graduate programs in the Bay Area. Of course, with the opening of 198, that allows us now to move on to the 100 McAllister Tower, which many of you probably lived in when you're on campus. It has 270 units of housing. We received from the state very generously last year $90 million to do a seismic retrofit of that building. That will be phase one. We've already begun phase one of the project, and we'll soon, I think the next several weeks, have a 27-story, probably 28-story crane that will be beginning that retrofit, which is basically steel and girders. Phase two of the 100 McAllister renovation, which will be likely project funded, that will involve a complete renovation of the interior of the building. So the exterior of the building is a historic landmark, has historic landmark status. So we'll be leaving the outside, which is really an iconic architectural feature, but the interior, we'll be ripping out every wall, keeping the floor plates, basically putting in new plumbing, new electricity. And I know that everybody always loved those slow elevators because the longer the ride, the better. And you never knew if you were going to get stuck between floors 14 and 15. But we'll have brand new high-speed elevators. And so it's just going to be, yeah, I love that building. There is the Great Hall. Right now, we are not planning to build out the Great Hall as part of phase two because it probably won't support project funding. Although if we received an appropriate gift for that space, we would build it out and obviously name it for a benefactor. So we're basically going to clean that up, reinforce it for seismic, and then sort of bide our time with that. We will, however, be rebuilding the basketball court. As you will recall, there's a basketball court in the basement underneath the Great Hall. We jokingly refer to it as the lowest court in the land, which of course is a joke off of the fact that the U.S. Supreme Court has a basketball court on the top floor of the U.S. Supreme Court building, and that's the highest court in the land. So we have the lowest court in the land. What turns out also that behind the basketball court, there's an old theater. It's actually a huge space that was used for essentially just storage over time. That area will be turned into a major recreational facility. It'll have weight rooms, yoga rooms, ellipticals, and stairmasters and other machinery for people to use. Those recreational facilities, as well as the basketball court, will serve the entire community of the academic village. So if you are part of our community, then you'll have access to those recreational facilities. So that's the 100 McAllister. We do expect that to be done with phase two, either in 2027 or 2028. That's right now the timeline that we're working on. Under 2028 looks very doable, but 2027 is still a possibility. Of course, as I like to say, all these buildings are worthless, but for the people in them. And as you know, we have just a fantastic curriculum. We're a large law school, so it's very broad and very deep. We also have fantastic clinics from the Center for Gender and Refugee Studies, employment clinics, and so forth. And we also have just a surplus of centers. These are programmatic and research centers, and we've really built those out. And I think they illustrate quite well what it means to be a large law school in modern day America. And that is that we are proud of every area that somebody might work in. So we have a business law center, we have the tax law center, we have the indigenous law center, we have the Center for Gender and Refugee Studies. So we really are giving our students an opportunity to find their niche, to find where they want to concentrate their interests as they consider and contemplate what their career in law is going to look like. Our applications are very strong this year. Nationally, they're up around 3 or 4%. Our applications up around 4 to 5%. So we're looking to bring in a very strong class coming in this August. So that's always good news. And the employment, we just got our employment numbers from last year's class. The overall employment numbers are over 90%, I think around 93%. So again, that's a very positive sign for both the strength of the law economy, but also the strength of our degree in that economy. Just to give you a little bit of an update, of course, one of the realities of my experience as dean is that I get to be a client for all of my lawyer friends. So I've been both a plaintiff and a defendant. On the defendant side, as you'll recall, when we changed the name, we were sued for the name change. We call it the name change litigation. Recently, we won before Judge Omer in the San Francisco Superior Court. He granted demurrer, and that now is subject to potential appeal. I believe the plaintiffs have another month or so to decide whether they're going to appeal that judgment. And then the other litigation we've been involved in is the litigation to secure the safety and security of our neighborhood. We've gone back to Judge Tiger to ask him to call upon the city to enforce the agreement that we reached back in June 2020 to make sure that the encampments are gone from the neighborhood. I will say that our immediate neighborhood is in great shape. We have employed Urban Alchemy over these last several years. As you may know, Urban Alchemy is a nonprofit organization that employs formerly incarcerated individuals who are then trained to be street ambassadors. And they've done a wonderful job integrating with our community and doing a great job of keeping the streets clear of encampments and tents, drug dealing, and others. So when you walk around the frontage of the school, it's extremely clean, very safe. So that's all good news. So I'm happy to answer questions. I actually enjoy the give and take, and would love to hear from you and what you're interested to hear about as regards to what's happening on campus. And I apologize, I have a bit of a cold, so I may sound like, or at least to me, I sound like I'm coming from the bottom of the tunnel.
Hi, this is Les Nichols. Can you hear me, David?
I can, Les.
Yeah, hi. Great to see you
Hey,
all. Just a few points. First, I think the housing is wonderful. Of course, and I'm so old, the class of '66. I'll be seeing you and Marvin Jane Baxter and Olympia, at least those at the party tomorrow. And look forward to that. We were all commuters then, you know, and so there was not that social cohesion. It's wonderful, though. It was a school of hard knocks, and we were all survivors, so we're very close over the decades. It's just been great. I want to just acknowledge, I'm just looking here, I see your secret weapon, Jenny Kwan there. 3 cheers to Jenny.
She's not so secret, but
yeah, well, I hope not. I hope not. And also, I see several others. Meredith there, and I think Tracy, Charles. Good to see you all. And also, I want to just say that what a wonderful time we had at the luncheon for 12, including each of you, Jenny and David, and 10 of our classmates with Bruce Monroe. The tour we got from David and Eric, I mentioned Eric, was just great. I do have, you know, my little thorn in the side has been to make sure we have best efforts to maintain civility through tough times on campus. And our court pioneered in Santa Clara County with rules of civility. People come in from elsewhere and they say, oh, they're enforced. And I wonder if you can just tell us the arc since both Stanford and Hastings had the really comeuppance. And now we have Gaza, Israel, all these real hot potato issues. But I've read it on some campuses, this has really turned into vile and contemptuous language, not befitting of a law school. And I'm wondering if the rules of engagement are maintained there at our beloved school. Thank you.
Les, thanks for that question. Of course, as we look around nationally, as you say, it's a difficult time and a lot of contentious issues, and there are conversations that have to take place,
Sure.
and they're not always easy to hear, but We are dedicated to academic freedom, and we're dedicated, obviously, as a public institution, to the First Amendment. And even if we were not a public institution, I'd be dedicated to the First Amendment. And so you have a right to say things that upset other people.
Sure.
And the other people have a right to say things in response. And that's the marketplace of ideas. And I've taught that for almost 30 years in teaching constitutional law. And that's the level of civility that we expect on our campus. We actually so far have had that level of civility. It's been very positive. There are a few incidents now and then where posters will be put up for a particular event that might be viewed as controversial, and people will pull them down. We made it clear that that is a violation of our conduct code, but we can't, police every bulletin board 24/7. So we call upon people to behave appropriately. We've had several events, both on the left and the right, however you want to define the political polarization, where we have beefed up security. Some made sure that it was in a large enough classroom so that it would fit the folks that came. If there were desires to have protests, they could do that, although we haven't had that. And so far, the conversations that we've had have been, as you put it, quite civil and quite respectful of one another. I do think we're benefited by the fact that we're a law school and we don't have undergraduates. So in terms of neural development, as you get to around 24, 25, and 26, I think that their neural development is, of course, it's not uniform, as we can see around the United States and in Congress, but since most of them are older than in order to have the neural development to meet the standards. But quite, honestly, I've actually been quite comforted by the level of civility and respectfulness that people have brought to these questions. Obviously, people feel very strongly about it. The other side of it, our Dean of Students, who is relatively new, Tiffany Gabrielson, many of you may not have met her yet. She's very good at saying, look, you have a right to say what you want to say, and it can make people unhappy. But as an institution, we also will support people that feel aggrieved at what other people might be saying. And again, whatever side of the coin you find yourself on. And so we want to support all of our students. But I make it very clear from day one during orientation that we are a big tent. And I know that's an old phrase, but we're a big tent that we produce public defenders and DAs.
Right.
We produce Sierra Club attorneys. We produce corporate Chevron attorneys.
Well, David,
that's what we do.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's what we maintained in court for 35 years as a judge. And you may have seen, I'll stop now, but Cass Sunstein had an article in yesterday's New York Times, tribute to Daniel Kahneman, the social scientist, and that Daniel concluded angry science was not the way to go, where people, even at high levels of scholarship, are not immune from trying to trash the other party. And he worked collaboratively. And we need that sense that, sure, we have vigorous advocacy. All views are heard, but I do hail what you said. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I'm a huge fan of Dan Kahneman. My master's thesis that Eric alluded to was actually based on a Kahneman-Tversky hypothesis. So I've been a Dan Kahneman fan most of my professional career.
I was just on the phone before I hung up with Felton Henderson, and we were reminiscing about our mutual experiences and friendship and advocacy, and I'm sure he would endorse that too. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Les.
Anybody else want to ask a question in real time? Just jump on in there. Okay.
I have a comment. I have a comment. Hi, Eric.
Hi, Maria. Good to see you.
Hi. This is Maria Dominguez from the class of 2013, and I am sad that I'm going to miss most of the festivities this weekend. But I did want to give a shout out to our leadership. I'm very excited that this year's commencement speaker is Judge Mary Murguia, our chief judge from the Ninth Circuit. So whomever made that happen, I'm just so thrilled, and I'm really looking forward to that. I know that it means a lot, especially, or not especially, but including to the Latinx Law Students Association and our alumni. I also shared that we have an event coming up, so you're all invited to come and celebrate with us and our distinguished alumni, including Judge Sheila Shaw Lickblaw and the others I mentioned in the chat.
Well, thank you, Maria. Yeah, we're thrilled to have Judge McGee, Chief Judge McGee, come speak to our graduates. I know that she'll be incredibly inspirational, and yeah, we're very much looking forward to having her on campus and presenting.
I have a quick question. I'm curious what in-state tuition, if there still is such a thing as in-state versus out-of-state tuition, is for students. I'm from the class of 1981. And I know just from anecdotally from a friend of mine whose son is in a law school, has applied to law school this year, that the UC law schools no longer, and professional schools just seem to have gone, they're no longer subsidized in the way I guess we were in 1981. We paid, maybe $2,000 a year for tuition. And the number is, well, I mean, perhaps 20 times that now. So
I can give you those numbers, Sandra. Thank you for the question. The in-state we still distinguish in-state, out-of-state, although you can get in-state after a year being a resident. The in-state tuition is just shy this year, coming up $50,000, and the out-of-state tuition is about $6,000 more than that. So you're right, it really is quite different. When I started back in 1987 at UC Law, then UC Hastings, I think it was probably about $1,000, $1,500 a year, maybe $2,000 at the most. We would back then get about 80 to 85% of our operating budget from the state of California. Currently, we get about 24, 25% of our operating budget from the state of California. So the state has been very generous to us as law schools go and higher education goes. But as a general matter, Sacramento's gotten out of the business of strongly subsidizing higher education. And so we like many of the other University of Californias, are very much tuition driven. And however, having said that, we are still the least expensive. I was going to say cheapest, but I don't think we're the cheapest. But we are the least expensive of the UC law schools. We're about 10 to 12% below the other UC law schools. And we're trying to keep that because our average indebtedness, which is representative of law schools nationwide, but including California schools, our average indebtedness after 3 years is $136,000 per student. That's average. So, it really limits what they can do when they get out, their choices. And I will say, and it's my job to say it, and I have a captive audience here, when you think about, your philanthropic priorities, and you think about, the, great education that I think you got, and when you think about the 65 Club and had some of the luminaries of the 20th century teaching at the time, even if they were sometimes a little bit hard-edged, you all got fantastic educations. And if you ever thought about, paying it forward, these students can really benefit from scholarship support and can really make a difference in their careers and getting them off the ground. So that's my job as dean, is to call upon our alumni community to support the school. And I think there's no greater support than supporting our students with scholarship dollars.
It's okay, David. They may have been hard edged, but they made for good trial lawyers.
Oh yeah. Well, back in the day, several of the, I had the 65 Club as colleagues when I started out, and they would tell me that, they would have the students stand up to recite cases.
Absolutely.
It hadn't even occurred to me to do something like that. And I will tell a quick Warren Shattuck story. My first week teaching at then UC Hastings, I was standing by the elevator. I was wearing a shirt and a tie, but I didn't have a jacket. I was 29 years old. And Warren Shattuck walked up to me and he looked me up and down. He said, "Going to teach without a jacket?" And I said, well, Warren, I would just take it off when I got there. So I figured I'd save myself the trouble. And he just said, and we got on the elevator together. So it was a great experience as a young colleague to have folks like Bill Lockhart, Ray Forrester, Jerome Hall, Warren Shattuck. I felt very, very fortunate to have that group. And I will say, we have a great group of faculty now. We don't have the 65 Club anymore, but we really have a lot of stars on the faculty that will be future 65 Club type luminaries.
Fantastic.
I'm over 65 now, so I could be a member of the 65 Club.
An old man, huh? Okay.
I'm old. That's right. I've reached the pinnacle at UC Law.
My heart goes out to you, David.
Well, Les, thank you. I know you. I know you're sincere in that, Les.
David, I have a question.
Yes.
How has the name change experience sort of landed? I also noticed at the beginning, having in the introductions referring to the school in 2, 3, 4, AKAs and short term nickname. I've kind of struggled with it. I was of two minds through this, and certainly I understand the reasons for the change, and that's fine. But I was just curious because it seems to a certain degree a generic name, which sort of makes you get lost in the list of names of schools. Like it's not distinct.
Yeah.
But so I'm curious to know if there's some way of sort of assessing its efficacy.
So it's a great question. And it's something, obviously, I taught at the school for over 30 years as UC Hastings or Hastings College of the Law. And so it's taken me a little while. I think now what I say is UC Law San Francisco. And for me, for whatever reason, it's easier to say UC Law San Francisco than to say UC Law SF, because that's just a lot of initials. When I am at meetings, so we have a collaboration with UCSF and UCLA. And so we will sometimes get together in retreat-like format with researchers from UCLA and UCSF. And inevitably, when you're sitting around a table, somebody will say, well, UCSF researchers are going to be doing this, and UCLA research is going to be doing that. And what happens is people just start referring to us as UC Law. And so they'll say, well, UC Law this, UC Law that. And I think I actually really like that shorthand because UC Law, and I joke that, for those of you who had me for constitutional law will appreciate this, I rarely cite Justice Scalia, but I'm kind of the Justice Scalia of law school deans, because if you went back to 1878, we were the first law department of the University of California. And so if it was not for Serenus Hastings, we would have been the University of California College of the Law at San Francisco. So our original name, going back to original principles, would have been UC Law San Francisco. And of course, UCSF existed in 1868. We were founded in 1878. So we couldn't be UCSF Law because we weren't UCSF, but we could be UC Law San Francisco. But I like just UC Law, and that for me rolls off the tongue pretty easily. And I will say, it hurts us a little bit, I think, in California because Hastings has such a fantastic reputation in the state and up and down the West Coast. And I think it's taking people a little bit of time to get used to it. But in New York and Washington, D.C., it works really well. Because nobody in Washington and New York knew where Hastings, California was. And being associated with San Francisco, even though we're not getting the best publicity nationwide these days, being associated directly with San Francisco, I think is actually helping our brand. And we will get, and I probably shouldn't admit to this, I guess I'm being reported, but we will get inquiries to UCSF Law. And like Coke and Pepsi, maybe it's not the worst thing in the world for a little brand confusion with our cousin UCSF. But so I think that actually ends up benefiting us as well. And you're right, it's generic, but that's the University of California policy. Every single campus in the University of California is designated by its geographic location. So whether it's Santa Barbara, Davis, Riverside, San Diego, San Francisco, by being UC Law San Francisco, we're actually fitting the default approach of the University of California.
David, I do have a question on the litigation. I'm not asking you to weigh in with the position, but I do know one or more of the people who filed the lawsuit, and based on my knowledge of them, they were in good faith and so forth, and felt they had a ponderable argument to advance. I didn't agree with it, but I said, God bless them. I did at one time understand that the university was pursuing anti-flat fee application against them, and I wondered if that was pursued to a resolution, because at least on that one, I felt be a heavy penalty for people who have to buckle in on the fees for bringing that issue of public importance to the court. So, anyway.
Yeah, we ended up losing that, and it went up on appeal. We lost it on appeal, and the California Supreme Court did not grant review of it. So that part of the litigation is resolved.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hey, Dean Faigman, Peter Engstrom here. I made a donation this morning at 11:28 to the campaign, and I designated it for the Dean's Priority Fund, which was about an hour before I heard you were going to Hawaii, which maybe makes me wonder, maybe you're the Clarence Thomas of
right. Well, what are my priorities?
Yeah,
right.
There's a bad joke there, but I mentioned it because I made that donation 11:28. By 11:33, I had a thank you note for Eric, and I just wanted to commend Eric and Tracy and Meredith and the other people on the team for not just for the hard work they do and enthusiasm, but for that little kind of recognition and appreciation that they show, which I think means something. It counts, I think. So thank you to the team for the work that they do.
Yeah, no, thank you, Peter, for that. We have just an incredible group of professionals in that office, led by Eric. Eric is just really a model of professionalism, and he's surrounded himself with folks that live up to those high ideals. And I will say, I really appreciate the donation generally, and I appreciate it to the Dean's Priority. I will tell you what I use that money for. It's really given me terrific latitude to put money where it's most needed. So, for example, it supports public interest fellowships over the summer for 1L students working in public defender offices, DA offices, city attorney offices, environmental offices, and so forth, nonprofits. So we fund, Jenny can probably give me the exact number, but it's something like 80 students at, I think this year will be $5,000 a pop. And that's all coming from my Dean's Priority. We also support the Bridge Fellowships, which are opportunities for, again, public service and public interest after the bar exam, as a get your foot in the door. And a lot of those positions that we initially support turn into permanent positions for our graduates. So it really helps the employment numbers. And the other area that's a real priority are retention scholarships. So when I first came into the job, one of the things that I was told was that we had lost, the year before I came in, we had lost 48 students to transfer, which is most of the top of our class. And that's just not acceptable. These are the folks that have done well in law school. They're going to all pass the bar exam. They're all going to go on to great careers. And we need to have merit-based scholarships for that group. And really led by the Dean of Enrollment Management, June Sakamoto, who created the Honor Society. And I use the Dean's Priority money to award scholarship money to those students in the top 10, 15, 20% of the class to retain them so that they stay as graduates. And you have to, just quite candidly, if you graduate at the top of our class, you'll have terrific opportunities at any law firm that you'd be interested in working at, and other opportunities as well. But the students don't always know that. They think that they might want to go to UCLA and end up paying full freight versus staying at UC Law because of the now believed name recognition. And the reality is that they're not going to do any better career-wise. And if we can support them with scholarship money, then they graduate with less debt and more opportunity. And then finally, general admission scholarships and need-based scholarships. I also use the Dean's priority money for. So it really allows me to sort of move around in the institution to put money where it'll make the most difference and do the most good. So Peter, thank you so much for that.
And thank you, Peter, for the kind words. It's always nice to hear, so I appreciate that. I did want to also recognize the architect behind our Giving Day website is Hayden Reynolds, our annual fund lead. So he put together kind of the aesthetic and also the kind of usability of that with our vendor. So Hayden did a great job on that today. So thank you, Hayden. And thank you again, Peter. Anyone else? I have one or two questions that have been typed in. If anybody wants to jump in and ask in real time, I'll pause for a second. Okay.
I have, I'm sorry, I have
go
a
ahead.
quick question for the dean. I had, like Judge Nichols, the opportunity to view the new campus and particularly the housing. What is the occupancy rate on that? I know it was sort of finished right as the school year was beginning, but what is the occupancy right now and how does it look going forward?
So the current occupancy is about 60%, and that's because we opened late. We had an arrangement with UCSF. UCSF program began July 1st, and so we basically lost that opportunity to get a full complement of UCSF learners in July 1st. And so that's where the hit, really was most impactful. We are hoping and expecting that we'll be up around 90 and 95% going forward, and maybe even approaching 100%. So we're pretty optimistic. We had the admitted students day on campus a couple weeks ago on Saturday, and the students just loved the 198 building. I do think that the prospect, and many of you may have had this experience of rolling out of bed 10 minutes before class and going down to the classroom, on the first floor, has some attraction to it. As a professor, I don't necessarily see the benefit of that, but for some reason, students do. So I do think that, especially for the first 1L year, if you don't know San Francisco well, it's really a good opportunity to live on campus and have a sense of community. I will also say, because I like to say it, having the UCSF medical, dental, nursing, and pharmacy students on campus, it really presents a nice interdisciplinary mix. And I hope in the future, if I'm still dean, that I'll be visiting couples of, doctors and lawyers and their children, and that they will owe their relationship to the fact that they live together at 198 McAllister. We call it the Academe at 198. So I think it's a good development opportunity and a great dating opportunity for our students.
Nice to see that soft side, David.
Yeah, indeed.
I did want to also point out just in the comments section, just to further reinforce how important the Dean's Priorities Fund is Maria, thank you for sharing that. For those of you who didn't see it, Maria wrote, I was a Bridge Fellowship recipient at the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights of the SF Bay Area. My fellowship would otherwise had been completely unpaid. So again, thanks for sharing that, Maria. It's great to get those anecdotes to demonstrate again just the importance of David's Dean's Priorities Fund. Okay, we have a question about the tower. And the question is, recognizing that the new 198 building is for the residents, it's, as we know, the academic village, you just mentioned that. Is the 100 building going to have the same setup, or will that be reserved only for UC Law students?
So great question. We right now are planning, Perkins and Will are the architects for 100 McAllister, and they of course were the architects for 198. The plan right now is that the basement where the gym will be recreational facilities. The next 3 floors will be administrative space, so space for HR, general counsel, and other offices and possibly other schools like San Francisco State or UC Davis that might be on our campus. Then floors 4 through 14 will be kind of a suite style where you might have 4 bedrooms, a common area, 2 bathrooms, and those will be pitched at a lower price level than the efficiencies and studios in 198. So the idea is to have a complement of different price points on campus. And then from 15 to 23, those will be 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, and they'll be primarily for families, older staff, and faculty. But again, not just for UC Law, but for any of our graduate partners. And then, of course, the 24th floor, which is now the Sky Room, that's going to be completely renovated. As you all know, it has those absolutely beautiful views, and they'll, again, will be a brand new setup. And then you may or may not know, floors 25 and 26 are, and when you look at it, you can see those are penthouses that haven't been used for many years, and those also will be renovated. One would be, I think, a great Chancellor and Dean penthouse, although my CFO has been reluctant to commit to that. But I do think for, say, visiting VIPs and faculty that might come in from other schools, we could put them up in that penthouse. And I think that, the views, again, from 25 stories up are quite phenomenal. And then my idea for the 26th floor would be to have a Chancellor's and Dean's conference room. And so I have a very large conference room for special events. And again, with the view from, the top of the world as you look out over San Francisco. So I think 100 McAllister is going to be, it's a very exciting building because it's such an iconic architectural, building for San Francisco. But I also think it provides lots of opportunity for expanding what our, housing looks like, as well as our ability to attract some partners.
The rough timeline on that, David, as best you.
Yeah, we're looking for hopefully opening fall of 2027, maybe more likely fall of 2028.
Great.
It quite depends actually partly on interest rates. So we have the funding for phase 1, which the state generously provided. So that's going forward. That's the $90 million that's in the bank. I will tell you, I don't know if you all heard this story. So the state last year, when we had a good year, committed $90 million to renovate and seismically upgrade 100 McAllister. So we got $90 million. The state of California, this is the leader in tech and banking throughout the world. They sent us a paper check for $90 million through the U.S. mail. This is literally true. Just I don't know what stamps even cost anymore, but it's just a regular, postage stamp. Yeah. Oh my God, exactly. And the better part of the story is our controller and deputy CFO, Sandra Plensky. She took the check, and she lives out near Walnut Creek. She went to her local Wells Fargo to deposit it. And they had a whole group of people counting the zeros because they couldn't believe they had a $90 million check from the state of California. All true, all 100% true. You can't make this stuff up. That's Sacramento for you.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, we have about 10 minutes to go. Of course, we can wrap up early and let people get on with their day, but we do have a bit more time if anyone would like to jump in and ask another question or two.
Jester, from what I've seen with David Seward, you've got a real master there to work on the interest rates and the financing, and be as creative as circumstances suggest.
Yeah, I will shout out to David Seward. Again, I am surrounded by an amazing group of professionals. David Seward, absolutely among them. David Seward, when I came into the deanship in 2016, the first thing I was told was from David that we have good news and bad news on the 333 building. The good news was that the state was going to give us $33 million to build a new academic building on that empty lot at 333. The bad news is you can't build a building in San Francisco for $37 million. So he and I went to Sacramento basically to beg for what turned out to be $55 million, which is what we got to build that building. And David, at my elbow, got us there. And David gets the credit for that $90 million. I mean, he worked his connections at the Department of Finance. They believe in us as an institution. They wanted to support us. They wanted, obviously, to support a 27-story building that was seismically challenged. But David really did, he was absolutely magical in getting things done in Sacramento. So props to him. He's been fantastic for the school.
Here's a great question, given a lot of what we've been discussing with our facilities and the continued building out of the academic village. And the question is, to what extent, if any, are the campus facilities available to alumni?
Good question. So one of the ideas that you will appreciate, because you all are in the business of business, we wanted to build out the campus partly to monetize some of that space, because any rentals that we can get that will come to the school will go into my dean's priority funds, student scholarships, and other benefits for the community. So we do we can provide the connections. Rhiannon Baylord is the chief operating officer, and our folks can work with you to allow rental of property. So we can't make it available free of charge for every alum. We have 22,000 alumni, so that would be very difficult to do. But we would hope to provide a good chance to use some of our facilities. Quite frankly, I think that the sky deck overlooking City Hall would be a great place to have firm functions. It's actually a good place you could have a wonderful wedding as well. So there are a lot of great spaces now on campus, and that as we get to building out the 100 McAllister Tower, that will increase opportunities even more so. The courtrooms, we are reaching out to the Ninth Circuit and the California Supreme Court and some of the others. We wouldn't charge them for the use of it, but it would really give us an opportunity for our students to watch argument at the California Supreme Court and the Ninth Circuit right on our campus. And in fact, I was talking to Justice Jenkins, and he said, we would love to come here because we don't get much of an audience when we're hearing cases, down the street on McAllister. And if you can, fit 100 people into this room, we'd love to play to that audience. So I think that there would be, there's good opportunity for activating our campus for the benefit of our students, but also, again, quite candidly, the ability for us to host law firms that would also give back to the school, again, redounds to the benefit of our students and our community more generally.
David, the Supreme Court, I think, would be very receptive. When I was PJ in Santa Clara, we hosted the Supreme Court. And as you know, the Supreme Court has traveled around the state to make itself accessible to high school and other students, from Fresno way up to Red Bluff and so forth. So I think that would be a fantastic, that's been a really a great positive, because
I agree.
I could walk over to Federal District Court or the old San Francisco Superior Court and watch the masters at work, and to have them right under our roof would be fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
And of course, if you're an alum and you want to stop by and take a look around the campus, we highly encourage you to do that.
No charge for that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Although if you meet with me or someone on my team, philanthropic quid pro quo. No, all joking aside, it's one of the things that my team and I really enjoy doing, partly because just to see the reactions of our alumni when they walk the new buildings is really gratifying to see. So if you're around, you know, in the next coming days or at any point, you'll email me personally or my office, and we can help arrange that for anyone interested. So, okay, we got just a couple minutes left. Last chance for a question. And I just got a note in our chat section. We do have a couple spots left. We have a tour tomorrow at 10 a.m., a group tour. So if anybody's interested in that, you can email Hannah Athanasios. Her email is in the chat box. All right, well, Chancellor and Dean, I'll hand it back over to you for some parting words. And
Right.
again, I want to thank everybody for coming. I just got a real quick no, this is actually a direct message. I'll respond directly. So David, over to you.
Well, I'll just end it by thanking you. You know, we are a great community. I have always been so thankful to be part of this family. Students, staff, faculty, alumni, and all I can say is that, you know, our success over time will come from all of us across the generations, from student, staff, faculty, and alumni, to, you know, to make this effort a complete success. So I look forward to seeing you and really appreciate all the support and everything that you do. It's not just philanthropic giving, we appreciate that, but other things that you do to support our students, whether it's mentorship, many of you teach, and other things for the school. So just a heartfelt thanks to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, thanks everyone, and I'll see you around.
Take care, everybody.